transaction works. Let's say Brother Omar goes out there to buy a house, and he finds a house that's worth the $100,000. So the UIF will come and buy the house for him for $100,000, and then on the last step, we will add our profit of $20,000 and sell it back to Brother Omar. He will be making a payment of $1,000 to us over the 10-year term. So this whole transaction is based on buy and sell. There isn't any lending or borrowing of money on this step. So with UIF, our promise is to deliver strict Sharia compliance. We are the lowest cost provider for Islamic financing in the industry. And the best part is we will hold your hand throughout the whole process. There may be many first-time home buyers that are looking to buy a home. Inshallah, I'll answer your question right after. So I'll be there to hold your hand through the whole process, make sure that you understand all the questions, all the issues that have come up, and help you through from the start of the process to the end of the process. Some of the honors that we have gotten from Islamic Financing News magazine, they have voted us for #1 in the US for the past 4 years. And we also have received great accolades from our customers. We let our customers do the talking, not our competitors. As you can see, if you search us on Google on any of the offices that are located throughout the U.S., our reputation is right there because they are rating us in such a good ratings, as you can see. The very last slide I would like to leave you with is ayah from Surah Baqarah 275. They say trade is but a kind of riba, but Allah has made trade lawful and riba unlawful. And that basically concludes the presentation, and I'm here to answer a few brief questions, and then we can also talk one-on-one on any specific questions that you have about your scenario, inshallah. Yeah. Sure. Yes, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. So let's say Brother Omar is looking to buy a house. So he found a house that's $100,000, right? And he comes to UIF and asks us, hey, I found a house and I would like to buy this. We'll go ahead and buy that house for him for $100,000. On the third step, what we'll do is we will add our profit of $20,000 onto the price of the home. And then we'll sell it back to you with our added profit at $120,000. And you will pay that back to us within 10 years at $1,000 a month. This is just a very simple example of how our program works. That is agreed upon between you, the buyer, and the seller, UIF, us. So that $20,000 is determined by your qualifications, such as your income, your credit score, your down payment. So that would tell us what kind of risk that is involved in financing with you. Yes. Correct. Yes. That the $100,000 comes from us initially. We raise capital from the community members and investors. We raise about $30 million. That's what we initially use to purchase the house for you. And then we sell it to you with our profit added on. Yes. So we have 4 different terms, 10, 15, 20, and 30. You tell us which term that you would like to go with, and we'll calculate the numbers and tell you the payments for that term. That's correct. So it's a buy and sell transaction. There's no lending or borrowing involved in this transaction. When you go to a bank, they loan you the money. It's basically based on that amount they're loaning you, and they're charging you interest. You're signing documents that says you're buying this house for this much, and you're paying this much interest. Where in Islamic financing, that whole process is not there. What you're doing is you're telling us, hey, I'd like to buy this house. We're going to then buy that house for you and sell it back to you with our profit added on. Yes. So we use that money for our operations, and also anything that's left over that goes to our corporation as a profit. So it's exactly. It's a for-profit company. It's not a non-for-profit. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't forbid profit. He just told us and gave us guidelines as to how we can make that profit. So the difference here is not the numbers. If you're concerned about the numbers, they're going to look the same. The difference is the process. How are you going from point A to point B? Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good point. It depends on your individual situation. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Right. So it just depends on. Right. So we look at the current market conditions, what the conventional banks are offering, what our competitors are offering, and we offer something that's. Well, that's where the misconception is, the numbers. So if we're to charge a higher amount, right? What are you going to do? You're going to go to the banks to buy that house. You're not going to come to us. So what we have to do is be competitive, same as the market. Otherwise, Muslims are going to go to the conventional banks, and they have. So this is to be competitive and offer something that is an alternative to bank financing. Yes. Right. Investing on this brother if he buys a house, right? We're investing on him, so we purchase the house, and then the profit we make, you take part of that share of that profit. That's how it works. No, we're not. All we're doing is purchasing the house and selling it back to him with our added profit. Correct. So, yes. So this investment has already happened at the inception of our company 15 years ago. So we have the initial pool of money, which is the $30 million that we raised. So that's what we're using to buy these houses, and that's where the money is coming from. Yes. Yes. You define your alternative options. Buying or renting a house. Yes. Right. Right. So if Brother Omar goes and rents a house, he doesn't have any equity that's building on that house. So he has the free choice to rent a house, buy a house. It all depends on Brother Omar. Why? If he wants to buy a house, build equity, and build something for the future, he's gonna go finance this way. But if he doesn't care about that, he wants to rent it, then he's free to do so. Right. Well, there's a very fine line. Let me give you an example. You go to the supermarket, right? They're selling two different kinds of chicken. One is Zabiya halal, and the other one is just a haram chicken, right? What's the difference between the chicken? Those two, when you go cook it, it's gonna taste the same. It's gonna look the same. But the difference is the process. When the chicken is being slaughtered, somebody's reciting the kalima, and somebody's cutting it versus it's being done by a machine, right? That's the difference. If you're getting bogged down on the terms, the numbers, it's not gonna look different. What difference? The difference is the process. When you go get a loan from the traditional banks, you're signing a promissory note, which is a debt agreement. When you're buying from us, you're not signing a promissory note. You're entering into a murabaha contract. So that's the difference. Yes. 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 Right. Right. Yes. Absolutely. And yes. All right. Right. Yes. Well, that's a common misconception, first of all. Let me start with my story, right? I worked in the conventional banks. You know, I've seen the 2008 mortgage meltdown. I saw how it affected people. I was at a Bank of America at that time, and people were calling in and asking to get some kind of extension, something so they can stay in their house. So that's the experience I've gotten from the conventional bank. So that's when I started thinking there has to be a better alternative. I was thinking the same way as you when I first started out. Islamic financing and conventional loans, numbers look same, everything looks same, right? Yeah. Yes. 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 Absolutely, and they are doing that. If you believe it or not, what do you do when you're thinking about buying a house? You go online, check bankrate.com, what the rate they're offering, right? Everyone does that. So when you come to us, you can compare with us. I'm not telling you go with Islamic financing or go with the bank. It's your personal choice. But what I'm telling you is that there's an alternative that's out there, and if there is an alternative, do you think it's better to go with the conventional loan or go with Islamic financing? That's the choice up to you. Yes, go ahead, brother. Sure. Yes. Sure, go ahead. Yes. Correct. Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. That's, That's an excellent question. So our financing is buy, sell, installment contract. There's also another one which is rent to own or ijara. We do murabaha, so we're buy sell. And in that scenario, when if the property value appreciates in the future, you have to think about when the contract is being executed. We're only executing it at the current value, which is the 400,000. So the agreement is for that 400,000. Any additional appreciation on that property, you get to keep. We only agreed upon that 400,000. Yes. Correct. Correct. So we will we'll report loss on that amount that's been lost. We're both going to take a loss because the whole house value has depreciated below the financing amount. So at that point, very important point. So at that point, you're going to have several choices, right? You can sell the house, you can stay in the house and try to renegotiate the contract with us, or you can just leave and hand in the keys. So what happens is that at that point, whatever the value of that house is, we'll sell it and the remaining amount will be forgiven. Well, if there's any appreciation or any amount left, we will split it with you. So it's just right. Yeah. So whatever the proceeds of the sale is, we will look at the percentage point at that time, and that's how it would be divided up. Go ahead. Yes. Yes. Omar is a homeowner. Yes. No, there's no FDIC involvement in the financing process. We're not a bank. We don't have a depository base. So if you have a checking account, then that bank has to be FDIC insured. Right. Right. So that's where this beauty of Islamic financing comes in. We have ownership stake on these houses, right? So that's what our assets are. That's what is backing it. Where in a conventional bank, you deposit money, and yeah. Sure. Bernie Madoff, yes.
Give us our money back.
Right.
We are going next door to Mexico or Canada.
Right.
Then what?
Well,
Sell your properties and give us the money.
if that's the case, then we are in a much bigger problem than what you're describing, right? I understand. But going back to the original point, this is a transaction that's based on an asset, the house, right? We're in a bank setup. There's no assets involved. Banks are not in the business of owning anything. They're in the process of lending you money and charging interest based on that money. You have to get that concept clearly understood, because that's where the difference lies. We're owning something here. We're not just lending you money. We're owning something, and then we're charging profit on that when we sell it back to you. Where a bank is giving you money and they're saying whatever you do with this money doesn't matter. You just pay us interest on this money. And as you know, money is just a piece of paper. There's no value to that money. It's whatever value you tell it So today, if you, all of us as U.S. citizens and residents, we say we don't believe in the dollar. Do you think dollar will have any value? Exactly. So when you own something, there's something tangible behind it. It's not a piece of paper. There's a house or a property that's associated with it. So that's the difference. Yes. Mhm. Yes. Mhm. Yes. Yes, we do. So it would be just a financing for investment home. You keep the rental money. The payment is going to be based on the house value and the amount of down payment you put. Yes. Depends on your personal situation. If your credit score is 760 or over and you're doing 25% down payment, you're going to get a rate that's very competitive with the market. If you're looking at a 15 or 30 years, 15 years, you're looking at a 3.375. 30 year, you're looking at 3.875. Our initial, the money that we raised initially was $30 million. At $30 million initially, yes. And we have financed over $2 billion in homes. Mhm. Yes. 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 So we have financed, I know, we have financed over $2 billion in homes. So what happens once we purchase the house, we find secondary investors to take over that Islamic contract. So that's how we can turn around and finance another house. So, yes. 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 Correct. Yes. Yes. I'm sorry, can you? The 20,000, how is it split? We get it. We're financing the house. So what? Right. You bought the house for 120,000. Right. Right. You get the house. You're buying that house. That's your asset. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when we bought it and sold it to you, the value was 120. If the value of the house goes up, yeah. No, that's not the interest. No. No, that's not the interest. The value of the house can go up, right? And you get to keep. Yes. Yes, and you get to keep that money because you own the house. We sold it to you. Yes. You are. Like when you sell the house, you're going to sell it for more than 120,000, right? Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. We're financing the house for you for a profit. We're in a non-profit company. Go ahead, brother. Yeah. It could be anyone. It could be me and you. If you have like. Well, when an investor takes over, yes, 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 right. So, well, there's selling a lump sum loan contracts with promissory notes. Our investors are buying Islamic contracts. They're not buying loans. Yes. It's not. That's where the difference is. Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they are a government entity. They don't loan out money. What they do is they're an intermediary that was set up. If I can finish, please. So they take the money where, we will sell them our Islamic contracts. We're not selling them loans. They have an agreement with us to buy an Islamic contract, right? They can buy loans from banks. They can. So, yes. It's not. If you understand what Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae was set up for, you would understand why they're buying these contracts. They're initially set up to help impoverished communities have access to homes. Look up Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, what they do, what their role is. So let me finish, please. So what we had found out initially when we were trying to find investors, it's very hard to get investors that are going to invest in an Islamic contract, right? And when they would charge profit that's way higher than conventional home or conventional mortgage. So we approached Freddie Mac to say, look, we have these Islamic contracts that we would like to sell to an investor who can invest in an Islamic contract. So when they're buying these contracts from us, they're not buying a loan. They're not buying an interest-based transaction. They're buying an Islamic contract. So there's a clear difference between a loan agreement and an Islamic contract. You have to understand the numbers, the way things appear, it doesn't make it a halal or a haram transaction. What makes it a halal or a haram transaction is the agreement that you're entering with UIF. That's the difference. You have to understand. If you're getting bogged down on the numbers and if you're thinking about the numbers doesn't make any difference. Numbers don't lie. Numbers are as it is, right? What the difference is that agreement that we have with you as a homeowner. And that's the agreement that is getting sold to a secondary investor. So that's the difference. Yes. 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 It depends on the type of investment we're getting into. So it just depends on. So we don't. First of all, we don't have a solution where you, as a general investor, can come in and invest $100,000 with us. Yes. Yes, it would be based on the profit rate that we charge. It just depends on the agreement with that investor. Well, in an example like this, if you're looking at a profit rate, yes, percentage of that would be going to, right. It just depends on the investor. Whoever's buying it depends on the type of contract that we're selling them. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll have, just as the brother said, we'll have a bundle of contracts that are yielding a certain profit rate, right? So if we have a bundle of 10 homes that we sold, they're going to have the same profit rate and an investor will take that over. So there, it's a fixed profit rate when the profit rate is locked in. Yes, go ahead. Sure. UIF, University Islamic Finance. We are a publicly traded company, yes. Unfortunately, I don't have that information, but I can get your contact information and send you that information. Sure. Yes. Yes. No, you'll get a 1099 from us reporting the amount of profit you have paid. Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. Well, for all intents and purposes, yes. It's not contradictory. It's the government regulation. We have to. As I mentioned to you, the different parties that are involved, in order for us to get approved in any states that we operate in, this is the process they have put in place. That's the law of the land. That's something we have to comply with. That's why it's reported on the 1099 as. Yes. Yes. And again, I'm telling you guys are free to choose any financing companies that you would like to go with. This is just an alternative as an Islamic finance. There's, you just have to look at the process, the way it's done. It's Islamic financing. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And well, we can have our differences in opinion, right? I still respect you, and if you went and bought your house with a conventional bank, I'm still gonna say salam to you next time I see you. I'm not in a place to judge. No, all I'm here to do is tell you there is an alternative option out there versus going with the conventional financing. You do your research. You look at what the Islamic financing companies there are and what they're doing. Then you decide. I'm just telling you, well, hey, look, UIF is doing an Islamic financing product. If you find it proper enough, you can finance with UIF. Go ahead, sir. I believe so. Musharaka is a very common model that is being used. Musharaka, Murabaha, and Ijara. Yes. Yes. There are different modes of Islamic financing. There's not just only one. Yes, so they might use one of these three that I've mentioned to you. There's a few more that is out there. So they might be using it. I personally, I can't tell you, but I'm sure they are. I fear that they have an Islamic product. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yes, you are. You're getting that 1099 as a yes. So at the end of the year, you'll get a statement of how much profit you have paid every year. Yes. Yes, correct. Yes. It's a standard government form. It will list out the amount of. It will say interest because it's a government form. We can't change the government forms. There are many scholars that have spoken as to the terminology. Our contract that we enter into with you, that doesn't have any terminology such as interest or anything that pertains to a loan. However, government documents can and will say interest and things as such. There's no way to avoid it. Our market isn't big enough where we can make our own documents as of yet. Yes. Right. Right. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you will contact us. You'll let us know, hey, I'm facing a hardship, and we'll look at your situation. We can temporarily lower the monthly payment. We can defer the payment until for a certain period of time that you tell us it's going to take me 6 months or a year to find a job. We can defer the payment and you pay that at the end of the term. It just depends on your situation. Well, we can't go indefinitely, right? At that point, let's say you cannot find a job for a year. We'll ask you, hey, why don't you just sell this house? You pay us our share, and you keep any profit from it, and we will move on. Yes. Yeah, the certain amount going to principal, certain to the profit. What you do is if you were to sell that house or pay it off at that time, you tell us, hey, I'd like to sell this house. You just pay us the acquisition balance. We forgive any future profit on that house. You just pay us that amount and you walk away. Yes. Right. Well, the way the amortization schedule works, majority of your payment initially will go towards the profit, and because it's based on the balance on the home. So if initially you have a big chunk of the money on the balance, right, 100,000. So the profit is going to be based on that amount. So every month it shrinks to the amount of the balance on the home. So more of it will be applied towards the acquisition portion of it as time passes. Well, you would have, by the 5th year, you would have paid off 60,000 already according to the payment schedule. So you would only have $1,000 a month, 60 months, 60,000 paid off. Okay. Yes. I have a calculator. I can tell you the numbers right now. It's yes, yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, bank will give you 3 months. We will give you 6 months to a year. It just depends on your individual situation. Yeah. So. Yes. Yes. Then we will call loss on our portion, and you'll call it loss on your portion because this was a failed venture. Like, correct. Correct. Yes. So if you sold the house for 80,000, what's the balance on the home? Is it 100,000 still? So we forgive you your portion, and we both walk away. This is a loss. We're not going to come after you for any additional amounts. Does that make sense? So sale of the house, 80,000 goes towards the remaining balance. Whatever is left over, we forgive. We walk away. That might happen depending on the situation. Yeah, 4 years, but then you can buy another house. So it's not going to be no consequences to you. We're losing money as well. And this is going to be reported on your credit because it was technically you haven't made payment on that amount. But we're not coming after you. We're not suing you for your personal assets. We're not going after you to collect that money. We're saying, hey, this is a failed venture for us as an investor, and it's a no early or prepayment penalties. That's not called a balloon payment. If you were to pay additional amounts towards the acquisition, you're free to do so. We don't have any restriction. You can pay it off at any time. So let's say 5 years down the road, you want to pay off the house. You just pay the acquisition balance. We forgive any future profits on that house. So you just pay whatever the remaining acquisition balance is. We forgive the future profits that we haven't earned because the contract is for 10 years, right, in this example. So if you sell it at 5 years, we haven't earned that profit of the remaining 5 years, so we forgive that and we walk away. Any other questions? Depending on the counties, yes, we have a cap on the financing amount. Like the Freddie Mac, they have a limit on the maximum financing. So we're trying to secure private investors as of yet. The investors find our Islamic contracts to be much more riskier than a conventional loan. So it's still a work in progress. We haven't secured any financing for jumbos as of yet. Yes. Yes. They would have a certain agreement. I really don't know the figures, but it would be competitive with the investments at that time. I have no idea, unfortunately. I can find out and let you know, but basically it would have been community members that came and said, well, there's a need for Islamic financing. They pulled the money together to help us build the initial seed money to finance these houses. So when we buy the houses, we use our own money. And then after the fact, it can be sold to a secondary investor. But for you as a homeowner, your experience doesn't change. We still service your financing, your home. So the whole time that you have the financing is with us. Yes, brother, go ahead. We do masjid financing as a ijara contract. Masjid, yes. If you can do 40% down payment, we can do the regular commercial. So like typically if you're getting a commercial loan, they're about 20-25%. Ours is initial investment is about 40%. So yes, we do. I believe it goes up to 2 million, but I don't quote me on it. I can get your contact information and put you in touch with our commercial side. They would be able to answer more in detail, inshallah. We're looking for an investor for our jumbo products, but it's going to be in a big pool of money. So it would be over $30-40 million to help us with these houses that would be bought that are over the Freddie Mac limit. So far, I don't have the exact figures, but we have done about $2 billion in mortgages so far with UIF. So that's a big chunk of number. I would say it would be in the thousands and thousands of range. Absolutely. Absolutely. Email me. Well, it's a very, it's the exact same form that you would get from a commercial. Yes. Well, so you get a payment schedule with us, right? It breaks down exactly how much profit you would pay if you followed the regular payment schedule. In cases you paid more than the regular payment schedule, that's what would be reflected on the 1099. So the form you have, if you own a home, you have seen that form already. So it's the same form. Yeah. So this is all the payment schedule is already disclosed to you at the closing. So you'll have all of that information. Yes, absolutely. I'll pass one out too. Oh, no worries, no worries. I understand. Trial by fire. Yes, absolutely. You're welcome. See, the toughest part about Islamic financing is just getting over the common misconception of the process, because the numbers always look the same. The numbers doesn't change. What changes is the process. Not our contract, but the government documents will. That's something we can't change. Not yet, at least. Any other questions, guys? Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Have a good one. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.